First up at 5:30, West Michigan Congressman Peter Meijer is demanding that interpreters used by U.S. military in Afghanistan be rescued from that country before they can be killed by the Taliban.
Political reporter Rick Albin spoke with the congressman today about his urgent plea.
Congressman, last week on the floor of the House of Representatives in Washington, you delivered about a 60-second speech that both called on the Biden administration to do something about a group of people who have served military assets in Afghanistan. You called on him to do something about it, and you also called him out for not doing something about it to some degree. Explain to me, and I should set this up before we go any further, that you worked for a nonprofit in Afghanistan and worked with aid workers and others. So you're familiar with the circumstance on the ground there. You're familiar with the Taliban, and you're concerned about what's going on now.
And the population we're talking about are interpreters who served the U.S. military. So I used local national interpreters when I was with the Army in Iraq. They are vital to our mission. These are folks who put their lives on the line, oftentimes with the promise that after they had completed their service, if in the event the U.S. was leaving or if there was an issue, a safety issue, a risk that they were facing, that they would get visas and be able to relocate to the U.S. Because again, especially in Afghanistan, these are people who are helping conduct interrogations. These were those who were leading our forces around a village, pointing out who was the Taliban, very much putting a target on their backs. Right now, we have this program called the Special Immigrant Visa. It started back in the late 2000s. It was something that we used to bring over a lot of our interpreters who served us in Iraq, but it's always been a program that the bureaucracy has treated slowly. Now we're seeing, as we have an anticipated end date for our forces in Afghanistan, and that's rapidly approaching, that there are over 10,000, it's roughly a 17,000 visa backlog for interpreters who worked for the U.S., some of whom are being killed while they are in that pipeline. And with our pending removal of forces, we need to be making sure, and the Biden administration needs to prioritize getting those folks to safety. And we're working to strengthen some of the areas around that visa program through the legislature. But we also really need to be focusing on a relocation and evacuation scenario similar to what we saw after the Vietnam War with Operation New Life under the Ford administration. So that's why I called on President Biden to get these folks to Guam, to focus on getting out of harm's way those who put their lives on the line to serve this country.
You are a member of the Problem Solvers Caucus, which is a group of equally divided Republicans and Democrats who try to come up with ideas that both sides can support, and you work together in trying to come up with policy that isn't divisive. Do you have any support within that caucus about getting these interpreters out of Afghanistan?
Yeah, we have a lot of support among that caucus, and we have a bipartisan group that we formed out of that called the Honoring Our Promises Working Group. That's all, or the vast majority of whom are military veterans. We have folks who served in the Vietnam War who very much look back at what happened after Vietnam, seeing Saigon fall, and want to make sure that that shame isn't repeated again, that we're not again abandoning our allies to a certain death, and including a lot of members of the post 9/11 military generation, folks like myself who have served in Iraq or Afghanistan, who want to make sure that we are taking care of those who took care of us. I mean, again, this is personal. I know many interpreters from my time in Iraq, and obviously anyone who served in Afghanistan, you were serving alongside local national interpreters who were very much putting themselves in harm's way to help complete the mission.
Congressman, as always, I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Rick.
You can see Rick's full interview with Congressman Meijer when To the Point returns this weekend to Wood TV 8.